Welcome to the Short Term Show, the show about short-term rentals and long-term wealth, with real property owners hosting real properties who are crushing it in the vacation and short-term rental space. And here's your host, Avery Carl.
Did you know that we're officially back in a buyer's market? That's right. Even though interest rates continue to rise, they are causing prices to fall. So there's finally room for you to do regular real estate investor things that we couldn't do for so long, like gasp, negotiate, make lower offers, ask for sellers to cover some of your closing costs. So it's a really great time to buy in terms of being able to get a lower purchase price and being able to negotiate. So if you're looking for your first or next short-term rental, it's a perfect time to reach out to us at the Short Term Shop. Let our team of agents in any of our true vacation market destinations help you find the perfect investment. Jump on over to theshorttermshop.com and click Get Connected to get started. We are brokered by eXp Realty. See y'all over there. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Short Term Show. Today we have some super cool guests. We have Ethan and Brooklyn McCarty. They are longtime Short Term Shop clients, like since before it was the Short Term Shop when it was just me. So they own in several markets. I'll let them finish introducing themselves. So how you guys doing today?
Oh, we are very good. Thank you for allowing us to be on here. We're proud of that title, to be a member of the Short Term Shop before it was the Short Term Shop. So we're very good. I'm Ethan, and this is Brooklyn, obviously. We're from Southern Ohio, close to Cincinnati. Have 4 total doors. Have a cabin in the Smokies, Pigeon Forge, another cabin in Gatlinburg, and then a duplex down in Gulf Shores, down towards Fort Morgan.
Yep. Awesome. And tell us a little bit more about yourselves. Like, how'd you get into real estate? What made you decide to start buying these things?
Well, it's a great story. I'll let Brooklyn tell her story here.
Yeah. So Ethan always says that this is a we story, as in a Ethan and a Brooklyn story, and not a me story, like just the Ethan story, because he's typically the one that is telling our story. But it actually started out as just an Ethan story. He was interested in real estate probably 8 years ago. And he just, I don't know exactly what sparked that interest, but he started just consuming everything that he could. Bigger Pockets podcast. He was on the forums. He was watching YouTube, reading, mindset books, business books. And I didn't really want anything to do with it. I was like not interested in it at all. You just he was very persistent, almost to the point of annoyance. I remember one day we were in the car and he'd been wanting me to listen to this Bigger Pockets podcast. And finally, I was just kind of like, gave him a mercy, like, yes, I'll listen to it. So we're listening, and it's Brandon Turner and Josh Stork. And I don't remember anything about the podcast other than it was like a 25-unit apartment building. And they had bought it and bird it, took all their money out of the deal. Now they're making like $3,000 a month on it. And they were going to do it again. And I remember pressing pause on his podcast, and I was like, Ethan, people like us don't do things like this. Like, this just doesn't happen to people like us. Ethan said we're about an hour east from Cincinnati. We're from the very southern tip of Ohio. It's the poorest county in the state. People here, probably 90% of the population here has a poor dad mentality, and we were raised with a poor dad mentality. And so he kind of backed off after that. He was still consuming everything, but he just wasn't being outward and verbal about it with me. And we went on to have our first child, build a house. And one day our daughter was in bed, and he sat down and he was like, listen, there's this agent in the Smokies, and she's constantly, her and her husband, they're always on the Bigger Pockets forums. They're constantly posting about these cabins in the Smokies. Like, this is our chance. So he went from trying to get me to buy, $60,000 homes in our back door to let's drain our savings account and buy this house 5 hours away, this cabin. We have no experience, and let's just see what happens. And that was when you really coined the term, like, just because we put an offer in it doesn't mean we're buying it. I hear that all the time. He started communicating with you, and we got that first deal under contract, closed on it March 2020, which is a different story in itself. But it was probably, 6 weeks after that after we closed, I jumped on board and have been riding shotgun ever since.
Yeah. That's it.
Oh, I love that story. And we appreciate you guys hanging around so long. And I probably should apologize to you guys, because at that point in my career, right before I started hiring agents, I was like the worst agent of my entire career, when I was like so busy that I was drowning, but I didn't trust anybody to like hire and give clients to, because I'd already had people like screw me over when I was pregnant and having people help me. And I was like, okay, I guess I can't do that. I guess I can't start a team. And so that whole like mid 2019 to 2020 time, I was like not a good agent, or certainly not my best.
Well, you may, from your perspective, think that, not from our perspective. Listen, you sold it for us, so you got us over the hump, and I don't remember. I remember that being a good.
It was very smooth. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have much to do with it, but. And
then we had the call with Luke before Manager Monday. It was all good.
Well, awesome. So let's talk about your portfolio. So tell us, let's go through each property and tell us what it is, how many bedrooms, size, what you paid for it.
All right. So we're a little smaller on the bedroom account, and we prefer that right now. Our original cabin we actually sold. So our first was a cabin in the Pigeon Forge right off the Parkway. We sold it and flipped it into 1031 into a duplex in Gulf Shores. So we have that duplex. It's in Fort Morgan. It's 2-1 on each side, third tier. So you see the beach from one side and the bay on the other side. And we love that location, quiet area, private beach. We paid $560 for that from the 1031. But we also bought a second cabin before we flipped that into the duplex. We bought another cabin. It's the neighboring cabin. I wrote the owner a letter, and he called me and sold it to us. And we bought it for $269,000. $269,000. Obviously, that's not happening.
Late 2020.
Yeah, late 2020. We bought that. It's a mile off the Parkway. It's a studio. Has one bathroom. It's an ATM machine. It just prints cash. And then the last one that we acquired is a 2-bedroom up in Gatlinburg. It's a chalet, or a roundhouse, as I like to call it. And Brooklyn does not prefer that. It's the 2-bedroom. We paid $465 for it, a 2-bedroom in Gatlinburg back a year ago. So that's our portfolio right now, 4 doors.
So a year ago, and it was how much?
$465 for a 2-bedroom.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
20,000 appraisal gap.
Yeah, we did pay an appraisal gap.
It's like right when the market was teetering between still being hot and kind of cooling off.
Mm-hmm.
And
gotcha.
We didn't make it quite into the cool off period.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all bought something during the height of things. Like we bought our Cape Sandblast place during the height of things, and it does exactly what we needed to do, and we've been happy with it. I want to hear. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying we're happy with the cabin too. We definitely think we overpaid now for what it is, but it's doing exactly what you said, exactly what it needs to do. And we like it's 3 miles off the Parkway, mm-hmm. and we like that area.
Okay, is it over there on like East? What is it?
Foothills.
Foothills, yes, East Foothills.
It's right off of that.
In the little roundhouse cabin community, or something.
That's all it is. Yep, that's where we're at.
Yeah, that is a cute little area over there, and the roads are easy, and it's just easy to get to and from over there.
Yep.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys a question. Why have you continued to stick with smaller properties? Why have you not gone with, like a 4-bedroom and up?
Well, at first, it's all we could afford, and then when COVID happened, the smaller properties were staying booked more. At the beginning of COVID, because people weren't really allowed to congregate. And then now, even as we're seeing things start to cool off, it seems like bigger properties, not that they're not booking, and occupancy isn't everything, but we feel better having our calendars filled up versus sitting.
That's the main thing. Yeah. We like to think that our family at any point in time could go and book a 1 or 2-bedroom cabin the week before, where if once you get a little bigger, you have to coordinate with more people and try to get it there. And we like having occupancy. I am healthily addicted to Airbnb bookings, notifications, and we get more of those with the small bedroom. So that's our belief and our thought and why we have stuck to the small ones. Not saying we won't ever get to the big ones or a bigger one, but right now 1 and 2 bedrooms is kind of our sweet spot.
Yeah, we own some bigger ones now too, but I have to agree with you. I still love a good 1 bedroom property. Because they do stay booked, and it makes you feel, even if they're not making as much as the bigger ones, it just makes you feel good that, oh, look, notification, booking. So it's definitely good psychologically. And, there's something to be said for that, because a lot of people, you don't want to start investing in real estate so that you could be stressed out and not be able to sleep. You want to invest in real estate so you can sleep better at night. And if, having a smaller property that has a higher occupancy rate helps you do that, then I think that's the way to go. And Brooklyn, you said something really interesting at the beginning of that last question, which was, it was what we could afford at the time. And I hear people ask all the time, what size should I get? What size should I get? Or what's the best size? The best size and the best price property is the one that you can afford. Yep. And that's kind of the same way that we started. We bought what we could afford when we could afford it. We could not afford a $250,000 4-bedroom, which is what they were back in the day in the Smokies. We couldn't afford that. And so, we have a studio and 2 1-bedrooms with lofts there. We've since gotten a bigger one or 2, but I think a lot of people, they get so focused on hearing what other people have and that it's this big, huge, whatever, and it's so impressive and it makes $300,000 a year or something crazy. But you have to walk before you can run. If you can afford a 1-bedroom now, that's worth doing, assuming that the numbers work. We're just talking in hypotheticals right now, but I'm a big fan of 1-bedrooms. They definitely helped get us in the game. And I think a lot of people forget about them and just want to go straight into the big ones, but 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms are great properties to have.
Yep. Ethan has a friend who recently had mentioned he's into real estate, dabbles in it. And he said that, Ethan was kind of discouraged, I think, with, I can't remember, one of our properties we were talking about. He said, everything doesn't have to be a home run. Like that little cabin we have that Ethan said is an ATM machine, like that thing is a home run. Some of them are just base hits that get you to where you need to go. They're not all going to be, grand slams.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Base hits get runs.
I wore my baseball jersey just for that analogy there.
So Cincinnati Reds, that is the only, that's the only home game I've ever been to besides a Mets game. I've been to a lot of Mets games, but when I was in high school, had a soccer tournament in Cincinnati and we went to a Reds game. It's a nice stadium. I liked it.
Yeah.
We enjoy the Reds, even though they struggle from time to time. So
well, so do Matt. So how did you guys finance these things? You mentioned you had a 1031 on one of them, but how are you typically financing your properties?
So our first one was an actual vacation home loan, 10% down. And probably, which, I know people, there's a fence to ride there. We did do what we needed to do where we used it 14 days, and it's definitely further than 60 miles. So that was the first one. Since then, let's see, our second one was another cabin, the second cabin we bought. It was a investment loan, 15% down. Mm-hmm. And the duplex, we 1031, but I used a local lender here. I got a buddy I graduated high school with who can lend, but it's all commercial. So it's 20-year loans, but they're local and we really like working with them. And then the last one was a 20% down investment loan. So we've kind of done a mix of everything.
That one was with the mortgage shop.
Yep. The last one was with the mortgage shop.
Awesome. We appreciate your business.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about managing these properties and the differences. So I really like to ask people who own stuff in lower seasonality markets and also own stuff in higher seasonality markets, what the difference is. Because I hear so many people who are like, oh, I don't want to buy in a coastal market because it's seasonal. So I want to hear what y'all's experience has been owning in a low seasonality market like the Smokies, and then also having 2 units in a coastal market.
Sure. I will say this is Ethan and Brooklyn's perspective, and everybody has their own opinion. The Smokies we love the Smokies, and we understand it's a year-long process, and we get bookings all the time. We got work to do all the time. Where the beach is, I'm sure for some people, and I think Luke mentions this, it's 9 months of work for the same or more money. We are the people. I don't know that we love that. We like the year-long people coming through. Even though it's less work, we also have found from our perspective or opinion that the beach guests spend more time at the house, and we get more complaints. We get more issues where if you think about going to the Smokies, you're always out doing stuff. You're not really going to the cabin, and hanging out. So there are definitely differences. There have been pros and cons to both. I think from us, we actually prefer the year long, although the beach does do 9 months of revenue, the same that the Smokies does, in that 9-month period.
Okay, so you're saying the guest quality is a little bit different, and not better or worse. I shouldn't say quality, but that's the word.
They're just more needy. They're at the house more. They find more things wrong, and
Yeah, it's just, I feel like when you book a vacation to go to the beach, you're booking that vacation to go spend time at the beach and spend time in the house. And they're in the house all the time. So they're finding the dirt that's under the bed or, whatever. Not that it shouldn't be there to begin with, but it just seems like they are just a little more nitpicky. I don't know. We have to work much harder for our 5 stars in Fort Morgan than we do in the Smokies. I feel like they're almost automatic.
Yeah, I gotcha. I've experienced that too. I think in our Florida properties that people are a little more persnickety than they are about the Smokies. And you know what I think has a lot to do with it is that, so all our properties in the Smokies are a lot of tongue and groove, the dark wood floors. And then in the beach houses, everything's like super light gray or white. So any potential dirt or dust or anything that's going to show up is much more obvious. And then I feel like, I don't know why I kind of feel like this, but I feel like in the beach markets, the moms, which are typically the ones that book, are the ones that they almost, let me back up a little bit. Our beach house is a bigger one. It's 4 bedrooms. And this is a lot of psychology, from watching my mom and just growing up in the South. So we had somebody one time that our primary bedroom the bathroom is really, really updated. It's got black hexagon floors and white subway tile. And then the rest of the bedrooms are shower inserts. And you can tell in the pictures, it's just, a shower curtain. But we had one person who was really upset when she got there that all of the bedrooms did not have the brand, like the tile shower and everything. And the rest of them were tub inserts, even though they're brand new. And I think the reason she was so hung up on that is because she was the one who booked. And then she took offense, like she didn't do a good job of booking when people said, "Oh, I wish my shower was like that. I thought all the showers were going to be like that when you sent us this." So I think that maybe it's just a mom thing, but definitely Southerners, if we feel like we have done something that has not made everyone's life easier or pleased everyone, that we feel like we were rude or we did something wrong. And it's a little bit of a disorder, but I see a lot more of that in the beach properties than I do in the Smokies properties, of people being real persnickety about everything. So I totally feel you on that. But also I do love, I would say, our Destin stuff, which is, got people who aren't familiar, it's just right down the road from Gulf Shores, a couple hours. I feel like I do like being able to turn it off in the wintertime and not have to worry about it. So it's definitely, each market has its own little things, the pros and cons.
Yes, I agree. And I love the word persnickety.
That's the word for it.
It is a good word. Yeah. Yep. Nope. That's how we feel. I think right now we're Smokies people. Not saying we won't be beach people later, but and the beach property was built in 94, so it is a little older. Probably has a little more things wrong with it. So they're not wrong. It's just they maybe see it more than the Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg folks do.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Hey guys, hope you are enjoying this week's episode of the Short Term Show. We are loving it. We are loving interviewing all these guests for you guys, and we hope you're getting a lot of value out of it. And we really love you guys. We love you so much that we have created a community just for you. We have a Facebook group specifically for short-term rental investors, and there are tons of great posts every day sharing best practices, learning new things from other short-term rental investors. And we would love to see you over there. The name of the group is the same name as my book, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. Head over and join the conversation. We look forward to seeing you over there. Thanks, guys. Hopefully you guys are finding all of these short-term show episodes to be really helpful. We certainly hope that you are, but maybe you have more questions and you just want to be able to ask an expert a certain question here and there. Well, we have at the Short-Term Shop open office hours on Zoom every Thursday, and you can sign up for free. So if you head over to strquestions.com, you can sign up to hop on and we will answer any questions that you have on short-term rental investing. Again, it's every Thursday and you can sign up at strquestions.com. All right. So let's talk about your cash on cash returns. Now, I don't want to get too much in y'all's business, but so you like seeing the butts in the seats all year. We've gathered that you like the seasonality of the Smokies and you like the smaller properties because they get booked more often. Are your cash on cash returns similar, or which one is better?
Well, we got to make sure the first cabin that we have here was bought pre-price increase. So that little studio cabin cash on cash is through the roof. So that outlying between the Gatlinburg one and the beach one, I would say they're very similar cash on cash as to what we put in and what we're getting out of them. For what we paid. Yeah, I'd say very similar. The beach is probably a little higher cash on cash overall, but they would be close.
Okay. Pretty similar. That's exactly the answer I was expecting, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about how you guys are managing it. What systems do you use? What digital platforms, we'll get into hardware in a minute, do you use to manage?
Sure. We'll first mention we are married and we live with each other and we run this business together. So we do try to define our roles, and I don't do any of the managing. So I will let Brooklyn speak about all that.
Okay.
Yeah. When we first started with that first cabin, Ethan and I are both on our phones logged into the same Airbnb, the same Vrbo, same PMS, whatever. So we were getting, the same notifications at the same time about when am I going to get my door code, or how far is this cabin to the island, or whatever. And we were both, sometimes it was just first come, first serve. Whoever would get the notification was the one that would respond. And very quickly, we realized when we're simultaneously responding with different answers, like we need to have clear roles. So I kind of took over the day-to-day management, and Ethan's in charge of what I like to call the boring stuff, like taxes, bookkeeper, acquisitions. But our management, we use IGMS, we use Price Labs, and what else do we use? I think we use Jervis for our locks, our door codes, and we don't have a very big tech stack.
That's it.
Slage, we use Slage locks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. We love IGMS.
Yeah. So that is one of the bigger PMSs, but I hear mostly hospitable, hostfully, guesty for host. Or is IGMS no, it's not.
No, IGMS is different.
Sorry, your porter turned into guesty for host. Sorry. So yes, IGMS. So why have you stuck with IGMS and not transferred over to anything else? You guys are holdouts.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a, pretty software. Definitely, it's kind of has like a Vrbo feel to it, but it functions much better than Vrbo. It does like what we need it to do, and kind of like if it's not broke, don't fix it.
We've looked a couple different times to change.
We've had it done like a couple trials and stuff, but it's just like they're still doing the same things that IGMS is doing, and so we just kind of wrote it out.
There for a long time, we were trying to figure out IGMS wouldn't do the locks where it auto sent the code, but they integrate with a system called Jervis now. And since they've done that, we haven't even thought about looking elsewhere. We really like what they do.
Cool. And I think that is it sounds so simple. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But so many people try to fix stuff that's not broken. For example, like just because you have some equity in a property does not mean that you have to pull it out and buy something else and pull it out and buy something else. I saw a lot of people get really over leveraged doing that. And I think that's one of the big things where you buy a property, or maybe not everybody. Everybody has different reasons and goals for buying things. But for me, if it's cash flowing the way it is, why am I going to change the loan to make it not cash flow or cash flow less so that I can go get something else? I've seen a lot of people post things about, oh, I've done X amount of cash out refis on this same property. And I'm like, man, how are you making money on that anymore? Like, you are sacrificing your current cash flow on the altar of scale. And for what? So you can have several properties that end up not cash flowing. So that's always, when you said that, it kind of triggered me, because I think a lot of people do that. They think they get caught up in scaling and forget about the fact that, well, this one's making money the way that it is, and we don't need to fix it.
Yep. I think it's easy to get caught up in that, especially now with all the people influencing, and that's the fun stuff to influence and to show, is how many properties you're buying and this, and this, where slow and steady is kind of boring. It doesn't really sell, but it's worked for us so far. And, we're in it for the long race here.
I totally agree with that. We have never pulled equity out of anything ever. We did one HELOC at the very beginning on our primary home and paid it back immediately, but we've never done a cash out refi on anything. And I like knowing that it's sitting there, and we're not over leveraged by any means. I like knowing we aren't over leveraged. So there's definitely, some comfort there. And I think that's cool. Even though you were talking about your property management software is doing what you need it to do. So why change just because there's other ones that are talked about more or posted about more or started doing this new thing? Like, you've got your system built and this is how you run it. And I like that.
That's what we're doing for right now. Yep.
Well, what's next for you guys? What's the next investment, or do you know yet?
I don't know if we know. Whatever it'll be, probably be in the Smokies when we get there. But slow and steady, what we're trying to do. I'm always looking, so I'm not saying nothing couldn't happen, but right now we're just kind of out there in no man's land, looking at stuff, but doing what we need to do to get these running smoothly.
Awesome. Well, I love it. I love what you guys are doing. And also, there's another thing that Brooklyn mentioned, is that both of you were trying to run them together at the beginning, and how that didn't work. I think a lot of people try to start out doing that, maybe not necessarily spouses, but partners, and like, okay, yeah, we're just whoever gets the notification first is going to respond. And that almost always just ends up putting kind of a bottleneck in the management process. And I think that's really smart to designate one person to do to message the guests, and someone else to do, maybe coordinating maintenance or something like that. Do you guys split it at all, or Brooklyn, it's solely you?
I am in charge of guest communication. I communicate with our cleaners, our handy people. And then Ethan is, like I said, he's in contact with our bookkeeper, our CPA. Anytime we're going through an acquisition period, he's the one that's communicating with our agent, getting the utility switched over, working with the permitting processes, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, he takes care of the boring stuff.
If there is a message or something that, Brooklyn is mostly a stay-at-home mom with two kids. So if she's busy, if she doesn't see it, I just text her and say, hey, there's an Airbnb message.
Yeah.
And she'll either respond with this, or she most of the time just goes ahead and takes care of it. But I do try to at least keep an eye on it in case something would slip through the cracks where she's just focused on the kids.
I do still have a W-2 that I work one day a week, and I'm with patient care. And so he knows, on Wednesdays, if something does need attention, he will respond to it. If I haven't got to it in X amount of time, then I'm probably with the patient.
Awesome. I like how you guys have everything kind of laid out about who's playing what position. I think that makes for a much smoother process in the
Yeah.
long run for sure.
But yeah, she stated we sent the same. I don't remember the exact question the guest asked, but we sent the different answers back at the same time. Yeah. We won't say who was wrong.
Something changed.
Yeah.
So that was the thing where you're like, okay, we're just going to separate this.
Yeah. We both can't keep doing this. So yeah, if you got us time, we'll talk about, we kind of wrote down like the 5 steps to getting, I was so persistent and passionate about real estate, and Brooklyn was a little behind. We kind of wrote down 5 things if you want to talk through those real quick.
Yeah, let's hear them.
All right. So we wrote down 5 things to get your spouse to invest, to hopefully invest in real estate with you. Obviously, this worked for us and kind of what we think. And so the first thing that really helped me is understand how Brooklyn receives and processes information.
Very slowly.
Brooklyn will tell you, I'm the guy, I'm kind of Michael Scott. When the prince of wherever emails me and tells me they need something, like I'm the guy who's going to jump on. I don't need much explanation to do stuff. It's like a pamphlet or a flyer, and I look at it and you've kind of sold me. And Brooklyn is not that way.
No, I need it like explained to me forwards, backwards 100 times and then do it all again.
So I had to learn that me sharing my information as quickly as possible wasn't helping Brooklyn.
It was just overwhelming me.
Yeah, I had to slow down. So I really needed to learn how she processes information, and it helped. I didn't do it well for a while, but I finally figured it out, and that worked. So the second one is be persistent, but don't be annoying. And I am very persistent in life. And it goes back to learning that this is just for us being in Brooklyn. I had to ask her to go on a date like 12 times, and she finally said yes. I've always been persistent. But at times in the real estate journey, I was so caught up in what I wanted and how I wanted to do it and how quickly I wanted to do it that I just became annoying, and she shut me out or shut me off. And
just a turn off. Like I didn't care to hear. I didn't ever want to know what Bigger Pockets was about,
So I wasn't doing myself any favors. So be patient. Don't be persistent. Be patient with that.
The thing that I think really tipped the scale for me was when Ethan said he had credibility, like he was, we didn't know you then, but he had you had these real life person with these real life experiences that could, Ethan was just telling me a theory, but you had the evidence, the facts to back that up.
Avery had all the answers.
Yeah, Avery had the answers. And
I don't know about that. Maybe about a 1-bedroom cabin in the Smokies. I had them, but
being able to show me that like other people have done this and been successful, and this is what we need to do. That did help. It wasn't like we were just, shooting around in the dark.
Next thing is I also got smart, and I actually sit down and showed her the numbers and typed them out, and I had a spreadsheet and said, this is this. And here's the worst case scenario of what it looks like. And that really made a difference instead of me just talking 100 miles an hour, sitting down, showing them the true thing in the worst case scenario. Obviously I showed her the best case scenario, but showed her the worst case scenario, and it wasn't a bad scenario. So that really helped. And then the last thing is what is really important and is highlighting, like for us, highlighting Brooklyn's strengths in the real estate journey. So like she works in patient care and has great customer service. And, I was able to share with her, like, here's how you are going to really help us do this. Here's what's you're able to communicate with the guests. You're able to design. She loves Chip and Joanna. We all do, don't we? She was able to design the cabins however she wanted. Like it was really helpful, me being able to pull out her strengths and how they correlate to the investing journey. So that's 5 things we wrote down. We feel good about them.
Yeah, I feel good about that too. And I think the sitting down and looking at spreadsheets is so important, especially when you have a family and you're busy and there's so much, like, especially because, you have that period, I call it the witching hour between 5 and 7, where the kids are really tired. You're trying to get them fed, bathed. They're kind of acting up because they're tired. They don't want to go to bed. So they're fighting that. And it's just, that's a very stressful time of the evening, but that's the time of the evening when so many families, that's like really the only time they have to talk about anything. And it's really easy to just brush it off and say, oh no, like Max is throwing a fit or whatever. And really carving out that time to sit down and look at things together. So with Luke and I, now it's at like 5 o'clock in the morning because that's just it. Like our kids are 100 miles an hour and that's the time that we know it's going to be quiet. People aren't going to need us. Although my oldest does have like a sense if anybody's up in the house, she will wake up and stay up. Yeah. So I think that's really important to find a time to sit down and actually look at things. I know I'm super guilty of brushing everything off and saying, oh, you do it. I trust you, or just not doing it. So I think that's super important. And being persistent, but not annoying. It's a very fine line, right?
Yeah, there were definitely times that I over pushed all the buttons and I had to learn, and I still do it. I mean, it's just how I'm built and how she's built. I still can be annoyingly persistent, and now I just understand. And she'll just tell me, you need to take a break.
You gotta stop.
Do you listen?
Yeah, I typically do listen.
5 minutes.
Then I just call my mom and start to talk to my mom about it, and she don't want to hear it either. So
yeah, my mom says that I obsess things into the ground.
That's me. That is me.
Wears me down.
Yeah, so my mom gets tired of hearing from me. So if I take a break, I gotta go get my nails done or something. Cool. Well, anything else of those 5? Which of those 5 do you think is the most important?
Do you have what affected you the most?
I think you learning how I perceived information and giving me time to process it on my own without overwhelming me was. And actually sitting down, he sat at our kitchen island with this little spreadsheet. I have no idea where he even got it. Like a little mad scientist, putting numbers in and showing me like, this is a real number of what we can do. And that was eye-opening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it really is, especially when you're younger and not, because you guys are not in your both of you guys, only one of you guys is in your 30s, right? The rest you're in your 20s.
I'm 30.
I'm 32.
Yeah. Okay. So when you guys started, you were in your mid 20s. We're not talking about executives and CEOs who are making millions of dollars a year. When that, just like, when I started, I was making like 37. And it really does, that one property, even if you're just cash flowing like $1,000 or $1,500 a month, that's a life-changing amount of money when that's what your take-home pay is for a week. And I think a lot of people, again, they look at what other people are saying they're making on these crazy houses, and they're like, well, I don't have the resources to buy something like that where I'm going to make $200,000 a year. And so I'm just not going to try. But it starts with just that extra $1,000 a month. And then you roll it in from there. Or actually, a lot of people think they can go spend, buy a $250,000 condo in Myrtle Beach and make $300,000 on it and quit their job on one property. Those people are out there too. But that really is a life-changing amount of money when you're in your 20s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And, the money that we had to put down was also like, I understand her hesitancy on all this because it was a lot of our money that we put down to take a risk. But, we just put an offer on. We didn't have to go any further than that. Doesn't mean we're buying it.
But we drained our savings for that first one.
Yeah. We did the same. Like we had not one penny left after that first down payment. We were like waiting for Luke's next paycheck to come in the next week, like eating macaroni and cheese, or he doesn't eat cheese. So he was eating rice and beans or something super cheap. But yeah, it's terrifying to spend your last dollar on something and not be sure. So congratulations to you guys for jumping out there and doing it. And look at you now, you're cruising.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all your help.
Oh, you guys did it. I was just here. I'm just somebody to talk to.
Good somebody to talk to. So
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, okay, guys, we're to the last 3 questions of the show, and I want to hear answers from both of you. You guys know the drill because you've told me, your listeners. So first question, what advice would you give 20-year-old Ethan in Brooklyn?
You go ahead.
Listen to Ethan. Just when Ethan starts talking about bigger pockets, start listening. And, just be more receptive,
Yeah, mine is at the theme of the day here, but be persistent. And if you have something that you want to do and it's a good idea, take daily action to get you closer to where you're going to be. And you may not see it quickly, but being persistent gets you places.
Totally agree with that. And you may have the same advice for this question because it's a little similar. But what advice would you give a new investor who's interested in getting started in short-term rentals today?
Yeah. So specifically for investors who are investing as, a married couple or spouses or partners, I think that it's important when you get started to really define those roles and to also set aside time. Like, this is where we're going to talk about business. And, from this time when we eat dinner, we're not going to talk about it. Or after the kids go to bed, we're not going to talk about it, and not let it consume you, because it can very easily consume your, all of your conversations.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, I work at W-2 and I manage some people, and we are taught constantly that to do the best, you need to do what needs to be done despite how you feel. And so you may not feel like exercising in the morning, but you should do it because it's going to make you better. And every day there are going to be things that you don't feel like doing that you should do. And the people who do those things, despite how they feel, are way ahead, and just to have they're further ahead.
Yeah, you're saying this to me today as my allergies are really, really bothering me and I'm super sleepy and kind of can't breathe.
Listen, I didn't say it's easy to practice, all right? I still struggle with it. It's very easy to say, but I hear it all the time, and I tell Brooklyn it all the time, and it's the truth. If you do stuff when you don't feel like doing it, that you're ahead of people who aren't doing it.
Absolutely right. Okay, last question. What is your favorite book that's impacted your mindset?
So I would say, not to be cliche, but it would be Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read that, listened to it, probably 5-6 months after we got started. And I wish I had listened to it when Ethan very first read it, because it truly is a mind-changing book, especially, like I said, where we live in a poor dad community. It's just the American dream is what is bred into people here. And so I wish I had read that a long time ago.
And for me, someone just recommended this book. It's a spiritual book. It's The Genius of Jesus, and Brooklyn and I are both Christians, and for us, of course, it means something. But even if you're not religious, it talks about having empathy, being kind, being graceful, all of which we try our very best to be, and just want to be the best people we can be. And so, spiritual or not spiritual, I would recommend that book.
All right. Great recommendations. And guys, if any of our followers, if y'all's story spoke to them and they want to follow you on social media or connect with you. I can't breathe out of my nose and it's making me not be able to pronounce my words right. Where can they find you guys?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active in the short-term shops page. If anybody wants the Facebook page, if anybody wants to message me there, I will. Not always the best at checking my direct messages there, but I try to check them once a week.
And probably for Instagram, for me, Ethan T. McCarty is where you can find me, or just message Brooklyn. She'll get the message to me.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and let's do this again sometime.
Yes. Thank you, Avery.
Thank you, Avery. See you later.